In part 1 of this series, we introduced the golden lampstand, a perfect component for illustrating many things in the book of Revelation. In part 1, we labeled the 7 branches to correlate with the 7 churches in Asia. In part 2, we considered the 7 spirits of God explained in Isaiah, chapter 11, verses 1 through 4. When we take a closer look at these passages, we find that the first 6 spirits of God are presented in pairs, while the 7th stands alone. Since each pair is joined together by a conjunction, each pair is placed on the same branch, which meets in the middle or central branch of the lampstand. This puts the spirit of wisdom and understanding on the 1st and 7th branches, the spirit of counsel and might on the 2nd and 6th branches, and the spirit of knowledge and fear on the 3rd and 5th branches. When we add 1 with 7, or 2 with 6, or 3 with 5, we arrive at the number 8. In his book, The Biblical Meaning of Numbers from 1 to 40, Dr. Stephen Jones tells us that 8 is the number of new beginning. This cannot be a coincidence. When we add our 3 pairs or 6 branches together, we arrive at 24. Dr. Jones states that 24 is the number of priesthood, pointing to Revelation 1:6, where we read, "And made us a kingdom, priests to his God and Father." Now, when we add 24 to the central or 4th branch, we have 28. 28 is the number of the leading of the Spirit. By the way, as a matter of study, I highly recommend Bullinger's work, Number in Scripture, its supernatural design and spiritual significance, and Dr. Stephen Jones' work, The Biblical Meaning of Numbers from 1 to 40. Both can be found online. As mentioned in part 1, the instructions for making the lampstand are found in Exodus, chapter 25, verses 31 through 40. Note what the Lord told Moses regarding the branches. 6 branches are to extend from the sides of the lampstand, 3 on one side and 3 on the other. 3 cups shaped like almond flowers with buds and blossoms are to be on one branch, 3 on the next branch, and the same for all 6 branches extending from the lampstand. And on the lampstand there are to be 4 cups shaped like almond flowers with buds and blossoms. As we see, Moses was instructed to fashion 3 cups on each of the 6 branches and 4 cups on the central branch. We'll add these numbers to our illustration. Dr. Jones states that the number 3 may be considered to be a complete witness. 2 witnesses are enough to establish truth, but 3 brings completeness, clarity, and shape to it. When we add our 3's together on either side of the lampstand, we arrive at 9. This number speaks of God's visitation. When we add all of the 3's together, we arrive at 18. 18 is the number of oppression or bondage. This may seem out of character since 18 is 3 sixes and points to the mark of Revelation 13:17. However, the word sin, which is the transgression of the law, means to miss the mark, revealing that the mark signifies the law of God, making it quite appropriate in regard to the lampstand. We'll confirm this even further as we continue in this series. When we add the 4 on the central branch to 18, we have 22. This is the number of sonship, or the sons of light. Finally, since there are 6 branches connected to the central branch, we want to consider its spiritual meaning. Bullinger states that 6 is the number of man's enmity with God, while Dr. Jones states the following. Vav is a nail or peg in Hebrew. It is also a conjunction, for it takes a nail to connect 2 things. 6 is the number of man, for man was created on the 6th day. Man was also to labor for 6 days before entering into the Sabbath rest, and the Hebrew slave was to serve for 6 years. I find it fascinating that the number 6 points to a conjunction and or nail to connect 2 things, as in our 7 spirits of God. I immediately think of the cross of Christ and the following from Ephesians chapter 2. For he himself is our peace, who has made both one and has broken down the middle wall of separation, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, that is, the law of commandments, contained in ordinances, so as to create in himself one new man from the two, thus making peace, and that he might reconcile them both to God in one body through the cross, thereby putting to death the enmity. Clearly, there is much to be considered in the structure of the lampstand when viewed through the spiritual meaning of the numbers. In our next study, we will look further into the foundation of the world.